When you are preparing for applying to, say, a foreign university, especially like you applied in Canada, so what are the things which you look for, and how this preparation goes, and how you find a department in some university, and how you actually go on to focus on it?
I think the first important thing that you need to arrive at is what you want to work on. The topic of your dissertation is very important. Once you know what you want to work on, I mean, it can change later, it doesn't matter, but you need to have something stable because most probably your writing sample is going to be a reflection of your dissertation proposal. So, and I'm just talking about the PhD level. I'm not very sure about master's or
Yeah,
bachelor's.
we are talking
So,
about PhD.
so basically, I decided on what I wanted to work on. And then I started looking at various universities in Canada and their English departments. So I went through each and every professor in the faculty lists of all the English departments that I had chosen to go through. And whoever seemed to have overlapping interests, I decided to contact them. So I remember I think I contacted the first time um, my first professor in July 2017, and I was flying in, August 2018. So I started my preparation almost a year back, you could say. So then
So,
you write to the professors and you tell them that you're interested in their research and that your research overlaps with theirs. And these people actually helped me write my writing sample. So yeah, they're nice. I mean, if you write to them, that's a good thing because they get to know who you are and what your interests are, and it's not like a generic email saying, "Please take me. I want to be your
yeah.
student," right? So it helps that way. Then another thing I would suggest is write to the graduate students who are already studying there. They'll also give you a different picture of the academic world there and the duties that you would have as a PhD student. And go through the courses as well, because in the end, you would be taking courses for 2 years. So you need to know what kind of courses are being offered. Sometimes a department may have really good professors who you want to work with, but the courses are not very good, and vice versa. So you have to make your decisions very carefully. Um, I would also suggest that people should go through the requirements to become a PhD candidate from a PhD student. So I didn't do that. And if I had done that, I wouldn't be in the university that I am currently in. So
You mean to say that you would have been in a better university or
I
something else?
rejected a better university, which gave me much better pay and was not as rigorous as my current university. My current university basically has two qualifying exams, and each of their syllabi has around 70 to 120 books, which you have to read, understand, reproduce in a 4-hour written exam, followed by a viva. So I think our
Means how do people go on to do such kind of Herculean task and that in a span of 4 hours?
yeah, I mean it's impossible to do that, but you have to read at least 25 to 30 books if you really want to pass. So and you have to do all of that with your coursework, with your teaching assistantship, and maintaining yourself abroad. So you barely have time.
Okay, so this brings me to a couple of questions. I will start with the first one. How a PhD in, say, since you are pursuing in Canada, so how a PhD in Canada is different from, say, that of India? Because you have the idea of how people do a PhD, say, in the University of Delhi, also in IITs, because you are very well versed with these kind of systems. So compared with that, if you compare it with, say, a university in Canada, and especially the university in which you are pursuing a PhD right now, so how is it different?
First of all, Delhi University follows the British system. So after a master's, you have to do an MPhil. And after your MPhil, you already have a sort of dissertation ready, right? Because MPhil requires you to do some research work and you produce your own little work, which you go on to expand into your dissertation for your PhD. So you basically are done with coursework. You don't have any coursework in your PhD when you're doing it from Delhi University. You also don't have qualifying exams in Delhi University.
Okay.
So when you enter a university like Delhi University, all you have to do is just submit your proposal and start writing. It's the same thing if you were to pursue a PhD in the UK or in Europe, because they basically follow a 3-year system. You go there and you start writing your dissertation and you finish it in like 3 to 4 years. But in North America, things are extremely different. You have to do 2 years of coursework with fellow master's students. So the master's students basically graduate when you finish your qualifying exams and your coursework. So while they graduate, you become a PhD candidate only if you pass both your qualifying exams. So you cannot be a candidate in PhD if you haven't been able to pass these 2 exams.
So this is quite like an IIT system as well, because in IITs also we have coursework, then we have comprehensive examinations, then we
Yeah,
have.
but the main difference is that in IIT, your coursework also doubles as your comprehensive syllabus.
Mhm.
In our case, our coursework was very different from our comprehensive exam syllabus.
Okay.
Comprehensive qualifying, I'm going to use them alternately because they mean the same thing.
Then listen, yeah.
Yeah. So also in IIT, as far as I have seen, your TA duties are very limited. You
Mhm.
don't have to lecture, you don't have to mark papers. You probably just have to take attendance and do a couple of administrative work. That's it.
Mhm.
In my case, I was managing 45 students per semester. I had to deliver lectures as well. I had to take tutorials in my office out. I mean, not tutorials in my office hours. I had to take tutorials separately and office hours separately.
Okay.
So you see that a lot of your time goes into managing the UG students. And because you have to help the UG students, you also have to attend their UG classes. So when I was in Canada, I was attending my own coursework. So I had like 3-hour seminars weekly.
Mhm.
And then I would also attend 2-hour classes of my UG students. And then I would have 1 hour of tutorials and 1 hour of office hours weekly. So
Okay.
yeah, so we are expected to sort of labor as TAs for I think 9 to 10 hours a week. That is what
Mhm.
the paper says. But it's impossible, right? If you have to mark students who are 45 in number, and each essay that they're writing is around 1,500 words, it's impossible to do everything in 10 hours. So
True.
we anyway start overworking. And then yeah, so we need to start keeping tabs on the number of extra hours we're doing so that we can get compensated. Otherwise, the UG supervisor would basically make some kind of arrangement and
Okay.
yeah, relieve us because
And how
nobody
about
wants to
this?
pay extra. Yeah.
I can understand. How about this lecturing and tutoring? Because you are also saying that you are supposed to deliver lectures or you have to take tutorials. So
So
how?
tutorials are basically usually done for first year students. I remember when I had to teach first year students who had taken a basic English course. It was a foundational English course. We had 200 students and there were 4 TAs, so it was divided equally amongst 4 of us. The first tutorial that we had to conduct was how to write a thesis statement and what is a thesis statement. I think that's extremely important for literally any kind of research work. You need to have a thesis statement. This was not taught to us in India at all. I learned it as I had to teach the same thing to my undergraduate students. So
Okay.
every week I have to sort of have a tutorial based on the lecture that was delivered by the instructor to the UG students. So if she was discussing a book or she had a PPT of a certain book, I would probably have to explain some more, maybe have some in-class activities amongst these students. So I was basically also delegated with teaching in that sense. Then, because I found it very troublesome to come up with, daily, not daily, but weekly tutorials, I decided that I would teach level 3000 courses, which is third year students
Third
courses.
year students, yeah.
So there, the problem was that instead of having 22 students, I had 45 students because I was the only TA, which meant I
Okay.
had to mark 45 papers. So far, I have tutored, I have been a teaching assistant for cultural studies and Asian American refugee studies. So
Mhm.
these are the two third year courses that I've managed, apart from gender studies department courses as well. I was taken to the gender studies department for an entire year because they were short on people, and English people usually hand over their students as well,
Mhm.
PhD students as well. So over there, I had to basically lecture them. So the professor would basically come up to me and she would say that this is the syllabus that I have made. I have a vacancy for this week. Do you want to lecture the students on something that is similar to what my course really offers them?
Mhm.
So then either I would pick something by myself or I would pick something from her syllabus, and then I
Mhm.
would lecture the students. So for an entire hour, I would lecture, and then the professor is going to take over. And lecturing simply doesn't mean a lecture. You have to have a PPT, you have to have an in class sort of interactive workshop as well. So you have to constantly stimulate the students' minds. Otherwise, a 50-minute lecture usually fries everyone's brains, especially when
Yeah.
they're young. So